Look at this. We are back. Three of us are back. I'm back, technically, because failed to make connections up in the mountains of Northeast Pennsylvania. But that aside, Brad Thomas, Eric Lindquist, I'm Eytan Shander, GoldBoys, OddsShopper together. The gold standard, right? We've used this and we're moving forward with this, right? At Mr. Brad Thomas, at Eric Lindquist, at shanderbets. Love that name. We've decided this and we've moved forward with this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the name. I mean, what's great about it too is like, despite like not always hitting bets, I feel like we've had plus money bets that have been like the gold standard. We've been hitting plus money, nice odds bets that have been really nice. Like I think every show we've had plus 250 or better hit. It's been pretty sick.
Look at that. I already see on the board a plus 340. And look, OddsShopper's king of CLV, Eric Lindquist, knows that we've been getting ahead of plays left and right from a value standpoint.
I've had a lot of fun the last couple of days. How about you? I keep looking at my account balance and it goes up drastically. Nothing like a double dinger day on there on Monday.
Well, look at that. I mean, I imagine you're going to reference that as it comes back here wholeheartedly with one of those down here. If you're on the GoldBoys channel, we remind you, of course, to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. You're following us at OddsShopper on Twitter. Make sure you're following the count, get updates to what's happening both internally and with our tools. So with that said, as you see up here, Tone Stamp has put together this beautiful graphic of all of our plays. We'll run through them one at a time. We can start at the top. What I love about this is despite us having a second show, that's on Thursday, mind you, despite us having a second show, Brad Thomas has said, screw that shit. I'm not going to wait. I'm giving you all of these college football plays and probably more on the second show before we get out of here for the weekend. So Florida State, I see right there at the top, my brother. This is beautiful.
Yeah, so with Florida State, it's important to note this line was 14 and a half, depending on where you shopped. And I did agree there was smart money coming in on Georgia Tech. Florida State had 13 guys hit the NFL, right? Like that's hard to replace. They did replace Jordan Travis with DJU, and I'm probably higher on Roydell Williams than other people are as a replacement for Benson. Benson, absolute stud. Roydell Williams never really got the chance to be the man. I'm not that high on Malik Benson. And it's funny because I probably should be because I love Alabama and you know, both him and Roydell Williams, Alabama guys. But I do think defensively and in the trenches is where we're going to see a cover here at the 11. I think if let me just explain the game and then I'll talk about the numbers. The size difference on the offensive line and defensive lines for Florida State and Georgia Tech is what allowed Florida State the last time these two teams played to run all over them. Florida State, yes, they lost a lot of talent to the draft, but they returned 91% of offensive line production. That is a lot of snaps that are coming back on an already good offensive line that really protected Jordan Travis. Well, we want to talk about the defensive line. Everyone always hears like the big names that go to the draft, like a Jared Verse, and they just automatically say, you know what? This team's not going to be good anymore because their best defensive lineman went to the draft and he was an early draft pick. No, there's still really good guys on that defensive line. And now, so from a game standpoint, I have Florida State. Now let's talk about a number standpoint. Anytime a line is set and there's really sharp movement without any big injury news or weather, the weather's going to be great in Dublin for once when there's going to be a football game there. You have to start asking yourself, is the sharp money coming in because they think it's going to cover or it's too many points? Then you have to start asking, when is the buyback? I set my buyback number at 10.5 on this game, which means I wholeheartedly believe all of those sharps that move the line from 14 down to 11 are going to buy back if this gets 10.5. Do you know what that means? That means I will have zero, absolutely zero opportunity to buy it at 11.5 I mean, at 11 before it gets to 11.5, because they will have their indicators way faster than I can get to the window, which means when that line gets back to 12.5 before kickoff, I'm going to have 1.5 points of value of the buyback number. And then I'm going to have 3 points from the original number, which for me, it might be crazy, but it's still worth it at the end.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, man. From a depth standpoint, the point you made about how much talent they lost on offense, at least outside of the offensive line, there's this assumption that they're not going to recruit and that they don't have any depth that they can fall back on, which is foolish, as we know a team of that caliber. And then just to highlight the point you made at the end there, and I'm sure, Eric would have similar thoughts, which is you're getting CLV on week, in this case, 0, but week 1. And anytime you're getting that level where these games can be tight, and I'm looking at the same scenario playing out Brazil with the Eagles and Packers.
Yep.
Like, these games, foreign land, shit just can go wrong. It can go crazy. These games can come down to a certain amount, a field goal, what have you. You want to be covered. I love that. Absolutely love it.
Nebraska Northwestern, that's the game that always sticks in my mind, where you can't make assumptions, especially with Nebraska, because that's the way that they roll year in, year out. But I'm absolutely here for it. I'm here for the analysis. I hope people listen to the analysis more so than just whether or not this bet wins or loses, because it's truly finding value throughout the entire NFL season. For me, that is the name of the game. Finding college football value from sharp people like Brad. That is what it comes down to. And as you said, bringing up the indicators, bringing up knowing that a number is moving for a number of different factors. It's not necessarily that the public is moving it. It's not necessarily just the sharp money that's moving it. But when you see things bouncing towards a certain direction and you have your modeling and you have your process, you have to be confident to be able to pull the trigger when it gets to an uncomfortable spot. Again, 14.5 would be lovely to be holding. And this is a great middle to have if you already are on that play. You're talking about key numbers. You're missing 10, obviously, but 11, 14 having that covered, 13 covered for a middle. I mean, if you're only laying 105 here and you're able to get 105 on the other side of that with a 14.5 ticket, God, is that an incredible expected value to have both of those together. So there's a great opportunity to let it be known, like, you're not going to probably run into like these plus money spots that, you can move the line in the indicator and see exactly like what the payout would be there. If you want to try to get an alternate line there on the 14.5, football is going to let you do that a lot more than other sports. But I love the analysis more than I even love the play.
Yeah, I want to add one thing to this too, because
go ahead.
The start of the football season, we're literally here, and I think a lot of people they fail to realize that it's the almost biggest cliche, but you're not necessarily always betting on the team, right? Like, betting the numbers is just as important. You're going to find value more in the numbers than you are whatever their name says across their chest plate. That's what you guys have to remember. And if it doesn't work the first time, don't give up, right? Keep betting it, because you find good value, you find good numbers. You're going to continuously make money throughout the season. It's more than just what happens in week 0, more than just what happens at the conference championship level. It's what happens throughout the entire season.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's
the name across the jersey is Washington, because I bet against them every freaking week last year. Did not go well. I can tell you that much. Don't bet against
Somebody
Washington.
should have stepped in. Somebody should have said something to you and stepped in and held your hand or physically forced you to stop doing these things. I mean, at that
like
point, you
laying
need
16.5 on Oregon in Vegas, going to the game and watching Oregon just lose outright and suck. And I can't even.
At that point in the season, it's on somebody in your circle to stop you. I can't feel sorry anymore if you're doing this each and every week for you.
Hey, Oregon was a wagon. Largest bet of the college football season last year for me. Oregon coming off going up against Colorado. That was an absolute generational wealth spot, as Ben Rosen would like to say. Generational wealth taking on Colorado at home. Thanks for coming. Have a nice day, Dion.
Wheeled in. All right, Brandon Marsh, let's go here, because now we got a first. Now you're going to tell me, at least subliminally, not only to bet this, but to bet his first plate appearance trio. Like, you're going to tell me
I didn't say that. You heard that in your head, your sick little head of yours. you heard that. It's those little whispers that are obviously talking to you because we can see it live. You're probably the only person where I can see the angel and the demon actually above their head in real life. I don't even have to impose it. This is just simply a play on a number where you look at the bullpen for Atlanta and you can find little small numbers like this. First off, he went from batting 8th to batting 6th. And yet he has the identical line here in a spot that's pretty similar to last time out on Sunday, taking on a righty. Reynaldo Lopez has been decent, started to fall a little bit apart here of late. But for me, this is purely looking at a bullpen in Atlanta where, yeah, they're completely rested. Yeah, they have 2 lefties. But when you have Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper at the top of this lineup with their splits, you're going to utilize your one good lefty you have in the pen against them, I would think, and prioritize it over Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh at the bottom half of this lineup. So I think the pinch hit risk is pretty minimal. I think he gets 3 plate appearances at the very least, 4 as well. He's been obviously much better against righties. Reynaldo Lopez, again, he's going to give up contact here. Only a 4.5 strikeout line that we're looking at in the books for him. Kind of just put all of that together, and it has Brandon Marsh pushing to the top at -135. Best available. Wouldn't bet it outside of -150.
All right, we'll look a little deeper into that game. Maybe post a lotto from that game in the Discord, the Daily Dollar. But no issue there by any means. I was checking to see if anything moved with me as I round out this first wave here. And it looks as if, sorry, just checking here. Yeah, it's bouncing around 7.5. It was at 8, 8.5, and right now it's still around 7.5. That's fine, but it hasn't dropped through that to 7, and I don't anticipate it will. But with these 2 guys on the hill, I think really we've seen just how difficult it's been for Eric Fetty to settle in. And I don't know if that necessarily changes. I don't believe it does, at least against Milwaukee tonight. And then on the flip side, it's kind of just like, all right, you look at Frankie Montas and how inconsistent it's been, and knowing, well, all right, does he bounce back? Because it was just a shitty team the last time out. I think both of these guys are in get-right spots for their opposing lineups. So I'll take 8 runs at least in this game to go over 7.5. And we'll see. I don't think it'll close any crazier than this, but that's really where I stand on this one.
I'm here for it. I mean, Frankie Montas couldn't strike out you or me right now. The guy is just abysmal against lefties. Alec Burleson out there. Brandon Crawford, I suppose, could be in this lineup at any given point in time, but probably Brendan Donovan and Lars Nootbaugh, who's hitting the ball very, very hard as well. So there's some definite lefty power that's going to be brought to the table. That's always useful against our friend Frankie.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I like that. I mean, you got a couple of these guys, even who are struggling to make some solid contact, they're not striking out. So they're not offering you that on top of it, right? When Arenado, like looking at overall comparisons, like you mentioned, versus guys who are going to be like Burleson tonight. All right, man, that's it for me. Let's flip it back. Keep it moving here. Again, hit that thumbs up button if you're watching on the GoldBoys YouTube channel. GoldBoys.com. You'll see there's an awesome deal for BetMGM. Make sure you head on over there. There's so much on the GoldBoys Discord. Brad, you'll get his plays. You'll find a lot beyond him too. So we want to remind you, it's not just that you're here on the YouTube channel, but you head on over to goldboys.com. All right, another one. This is now, we're diving into futures here. Like, have you noticed something real quick, Eric? I don't know. It's very subtle, right? And I mean that, of course, in as sarcastic as I can be here, because all 3 of his plays are college football. But this is how dialed in Brad is to college football right now. We have the second round of the FedEx playoffs, like the tournament here, the down to 50, and we won't be on.
At a golf course I've played a lot. Castle Pines, I grew up playing a junior tournament out there, so I know Castle Pines super well.
He's gone like a drive off of one of those Tiger Woods-like tees at Castle Pines. Like, Brad has left the game of golf behind.
No.
Sad.
No. Listen, if you want some golf bets, go to the Golf Channel YouTube page. I host a show every week, and I gave out plays there. But on there, I wanted to be transparent about the golf tournament. I bet with models. I think I have a big brain, but I think a computer and data is 10,000 million times smarter than I am. I did not have good enough data to give a ton of golf plays. It's just sometimes you got to call it like you see it.
Makes sense. Look, this is we'll get into it, and I'll bring them up.
Well, it's
with
just
Siegler
so
there,
hard
but
now that we're down to 50 guys
50
now, and some of the
guys.
numbers, it just gets really thin. I almost always stay away from East Lake. I can't remember the last time I had an actual bet at East Lake.
I don't bet East Lake at all.
It's just a disaster. It's a disaster. It's not golf betting when you're looking at 2-1, 3-1. Scotty Scheffler's -115 to win the FedEx. Like, what are we doing here right now?
What's funny is like
Ridiculous.
There's only one valuable number for an outright, and you can't bet him realistically, and that's Rory McIlroy at 12 or 14 to 1 is the only value, because you think about the field size versus his expected price and win expectancy. But how do you bet a guy who just had his third worst professional putting performance of his career, who had his 31st worst driving performance of his career? But if you play the numbers, that's where you're going to bet. And I just can't bet Rory in this state at 12 to 1.
Yeah, I thought about Colin Morikawa at 16 to 1, but didn't do it.
It's good number 2. But something's wrong with his putter right now. So we'll see what's up with that.
At least you've got the altitude connection. But outside of that, I wouldn't trust the putter there by all means. And with Rory, you want a guy who's playing consistently, top 50 right now left. It's hard to put money on a guy that you're just hoping can turn some shit around at this point.
Let's actually do this. Let's snake draft this. Let's go back to Sahith, and then we'll round it back around so he can talk about college football back to back.
There you go. So you hinted at this right now. I actually like that. Maybe we can do that moving forward. That's
it was a sharp move by me on the fly. I have my moment.
Live bet. That's a live bet plus EV live bet you just put down. Those are very rare. But here's the thing, and you mentioned it just at the start with Castle Pines. I mean, this is like Tiger Woods, right? Where when you hit one of those shots in like Scotland, where it's like highly elevated and the ball just carries, and all of a sudden this 8,300 plus yard course starts to play a little bit more like 7,300. So
I don't got 71 after elevation change, right?
71. There you go. So I gave it even a little bit more.
Some people adjusted it to. You have so many downhill tee shots that it's going to play closer to 7,200. I mean, I was a kid out there hitting golf shots, and the ball just goes 10, 12% more at least. And then you have so many downhill approaches, downhill tee shots where the ball just carries way further than you think it does.
What do you think Andre Galarraga would hit a tee shot?
Oh my God, Andre Galarraga. That's such a name to pull out of a hat. Unbelievable. I just think of the flat brim.
Didn't he smash?
Oh, yeah, he did. But I mean, these guys smash it way more now.
But doesn't he own the longest smash at Coors Field? Or is that Larry Warr? I thought it was Galarraga.
Might have been. I thought it was Walker. Walker had a 500-plus bomb in Coors one time.
Maybe I'm off. All right. So anyway, I'm looking again, tee to green, approach shots. And I totally understand what Brad is talking about here, that there is nothing outside of like a little bit of course comp that you could point to. But this is not, Patrick Cantlay or somebody who has shown that he can play consistently at these levels. I think with Sahith, you're just looking at a plus money for a top 20 in this top 50 field, no cut. Knowing that he's been sharp in those key areas, approach shots, getting to the green, tee to green, not relying on this being just sit back and bomb it, and talking about really this being reverted, neutralized, or just simply masked as a typical course in which we've seen the stress on getting in right spots of the fairway more so than just distance. You don't need to close your eyes and smash this 8,300, we know. So I looked at that and tried to get a little bit of value on the plus money side at plus 110 and try to correlate that with what I think are going to be some key areas of fits here at Castle Pines.
So it's funny, right? Because he's like a new age Tony Finau, where if you play these high elevation courses, or you play these courses where you just need to pick your spots when you're bombing it, pick your spots when you're conservative, but he's a better putter than Tony Finau. So I like the price. I pulled a little numbers on Sahith. He was, he had that like broken rib issue, and that kind of skewed his ball striking numbers. But if you like eliminate that, he's a top 20 ball striker. But obviously when you're dealing with rib pain, you're not going to be a great ball striker. And I feel like some people don't realize that. You have to kind of pay attention to the little golf injury report, even though there is none.
That's right. I mean, it's harder than to figure out what's going on with the Patriots under Belichick, or a hockey injury.
Yeah.
Even worse, hockey injuries are just impossible. Guy gets carried off in a stretcher, and it's like upper body injury. Okay, so let's keep it moving. DJ Hurts in the house. Hers chips.
DJ Hers, man. This lineup is such garbaggio for the
It's
Rockies.
the
That's
worst.
really what this comes down to, is
The
being able
worst.
to react to a new number and new information. Cannot believe how this lineup ended up panning out. Charlie Blackmon going to be leading off 17. Brandon Crawford released by the Cardinals. That's funny because I just said his name for the first time in forever. But anyway, Charlie Blackmon, 17.1% K rate. Everybody else in this lineup going up against Southpaws, more than a 28% strikeout rate. That being Tavar, Doyle, McMahon. Brendan Rodgers is lower. I lied. Michael Toglia, Nolan Jones, Jordan Beck, and Drew Romo catching. He is just terrible. Guys, this is just such late season MLB trying to jump on late news. We did it on Sunday with the Toronto pitcher. Can't even think of his name off the top of my head, but we ended up having a scratch out of nowhere for Isaac Paredes, who doesn't really strike out, adding Patrick Wisdom to it. This is just weird to me that this line hasn't moved yet. I've been watching it for the last 10, 15 minutes here to see if people are seeing what I see, and it hasn't yet. It will by first pitch. So I'm pretty convinced that plus money will not exist long for this at 6.5 strikeouts.
That's all I needed to hear. Get in before this thing closes at minus 105 or worse.
BK best available.
Colorado on the road. Thank you.
Yep.
I'll say thank you. And this whole thing started, by the way, we totally hijacked this conversation. This whole thing started with me trying to bring it back to Brad with some stupid little quip. And it turned into, now granted, we got a good idea out of it, but it turned into us talking golf and everything along those lines. All he wanted to do was tell us why Miami's going to win 10 games this year. That's it.
Ready for it.
Yeah. Wow, I just accidentally placed a really large bet. Oh, that's gross. Oh, man.
Oh, no. All right, we need details here. 1,000?
So I was trying to put a little 0.5 unit on Bodo to win the game, and then the odds switched, and then it max bet me.
Uh-oh. What's max bet from – how many units is max bet? Let's start there.
3.5.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so you weren't prepared for that.
What the heck? Okay. Whatever. We're rooting for Bodo. All right. So.
You want to put that up as your next play?
No. Not for 3. Anyways, it happens. It happens. They've taken 6 shots, a couple on goal, where Red Star haven't taken a single one. I'm in both teams to score on that already. Ideal world, we'd get a goal before the first half and then get a second goal early and then let Red Star get one late to cash both the bets. But we'll see what happens. With Miami.
Tuned in.
All right, here we go.
With Miami, I was going to take Miami to beat Florida Gators. I was going to take a -2. Tough to play in the swamp, but this Miami team's stacked, right? Super stacked. They get Cam Ward. They bring in Damian Martinez. Their offensive line is good already, and then they add more talent. Defensive line, good. Secondary, solid. I look at their schedule, and I'm like, you know what? You can play their team total twice if they lose to Florida. Win or lose against Florida, I still think they hit the 9.5 games at plus 135. But if they lose that game, it's going to drop to 8.5 because they're favored in this game. And you're probably going to get 8.5 at like minus 130. And I'll just take both. This is one of those years where if Miami doesn't get it done, what else do they need? It's obviously going to be a down year for Florida State. Clemson will probably be a little bit better than last year, but not great. The rest of the ACC, it hasn't like caught up, right? Miami went out and did what they needed to do in the transfer portal. They were one of the big air transfer portal winners. And if they don't win 10 games, Cristobal's head could be on the chopping block.
You should be. It's Mario Cristobal.
I would
He can't
think.
win big games. So I'm happy that you're going to cover that number before a bowl game.
Tight 2-point line, as you mentioned, against Florida. So Lots going to change.
I don't really
Hopefully Cristobal
I
gets game decisions out of his hands because he's the worst at it, like legitimately the worst.
I had my fair number for that game around 2 point. I think it was 2.8 when I put that number out. And then I was like going to bet and I was like, how much am I maybe I wasn't giving Florida enough for the game to be in the swamp, right? And I was like, I don't want to bet a tough road game to land on a push.
Yeah.
And so I felt I was more comfortable in their win total. And then I was okay with betting it again at the 8.5 for a little juice.
All right. Well, let's swing it back. Take us home. Final round here. Already see it. Big Ten winner in the house.
Big Ten winner, Ohio State. Man, as someone who goes to a lot of Ohio State games, has a lot of friends in that program, I feel like Ohio State just over these past couple of years, only bugaboo was they weren't good enough to beat Michigan, right? Beats Penn State because James Franklin doesn't win the big game. They get to the playoffs when they do beat Michigan. Michigan's down, right? You could go and bet Oregon to win the conference, but I would set fair. And obviously these numbers that I'm saying were probably closer to the before all the money came in. I'd set Oregon closer to plus 350 to win the conference. And for me, Oregon has a lot of question marks, a lot of how are these new pieces going to do? How are we going to have Dylan Gabriel for the entire season? And I say as a UCF guy, will he be healthy throughout the season? We don't have the answers to those. Ohio State stacked. I've heard someone say this, and I heard this a while ago, and I thought it was kind of funny because Will Howard hadn't won the job at the time. And they said all Will Howard needs to do is not lose the game. And that's true. They're going to have one of the best defenses in the country. They have the absolute best defensive player in the country in Caleb Downs. They going to have a maybe top 5 secondary. Defensive line returns a lot of production. They have Judkins, who comes in from Ole Miss to pair with Travion Henderson. Wide receiver core is going to be absolutely stacked again. Tight ends, good. Offensive line, always good. It comes down to Will Howard. And I always thought Will Howard was a good quarterback if he were to have a bunch of studs around him. But the fact that Kansas State, he always had to be the man. He's not a quarterback that's going to go out there and put the team on his shoulders, and he won't have to do that at Ohio State.
Sign me up. You're right. I think the biggest thing is Michigan and that just hurdle to overcome. This is great, man. Plus 155. I can't imagine that lasts long when
What's
they start
Ohio
smashing.
State's travel schedule look like? Do they come out
Travel
west?
Penn State, Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oregon,
I'm not terribly
obvious
worried
one there.
about the split there.
Ohio State has traveled very well in tough games this past 3 years. Remember that Notre Dame game when they were dead to
They
rights?
win close games. That was big one. That was big.
I was there on the sideline. right on the end zone. I have a video, and then I went and jumped up and down with Ryan Day and his best friends. And then after that, he shook his best friend's hands and didn't even acknowledge me. And I was like, wow, that's messed up.
Almost as unbelievable as Eric Link was closing his eyes last night, Brad, and hitting a Corey Seager double shot in the Discord. It was a thing of beauty. Like I piggybacked and played, not on his wish by any means, but I played the first plate appearance for Seager, all that, right? Like it was an absolute smash. So here he is again, dispelling the myth that because a guy hit a home run last night, you shouldn't bet him to hit a night and same thing this next night.
I can honestly tell you I've never thought about that one time in my entire life.
A stupid argument on there. Same person yelling that win-loss is a pitcher stat and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a batter's hot until he's not, and then you got to get off of him. Or what are we doing, guys? I look at what is their profile, hard hit, looking up against launch angle, and can we create enough of that here against a good righty? Now, obviously, it's a worse number. Luis Ortiz was just free money. I will put it that way. Luis Ortiz facing Corey Seager there. If you're not going to intentionally walk Corey Seager there, you're just going to get hit up because he had like a 271 expected ISO. A little bit different today, but now the price moves to result for what Mitch Keller's been doing. And Mitch Keller's been doing good things yet again this season, but a 233 ISO against lefties. 10.35% swinging strike rate. Launch angle up there on his primary offering, the fastball, almost a 20-degree launch angle. And Corey Seager just has like the perfect lift swing for some of these guys. 13.7-degree launch angle doesn't fully encapsulate how good he is at hitting high heat. And he took 2 of them on a ride yesterday. I think he takes 1 on a ride today. So it's just give me 50 cents difference there. We had what, plus 290 yesterday. We were able to get a bunch of boosts to be able to take advantage of some of those. Thank you to DK for the DK odds boosts on those for the home runs, plus 200 odds boost.
Surge. It was a surge.
The surge. Yeah, yes, of course it's the surge. That soda was terrible back in the day, but anywho, that's beside the point. I love Corey Seager to go yard yet again today. Won't be going double dong this time around. So yeah, showing restraint, even though how is it possible that this is a real thing? 3 for 4 on 2 home run bets on the course of this season. Absolutely absurd. And you can vouch for it, Shander. It makes no sense. I'm running too good.
There you go. So head on over to the OddsShopper Discord. Sign up for Eric Lindquist package. What do you have? 50% off with code Lindy?
50. Lindy 50.
There you go. Lindy 50. All right. You never know when you're going to get another 2+ homers. So you might as well sign up now. That's all I'm saying. You've got the GoldBoys Discord. You've got the Eric Lindquist package. It's a lot of package right there. All right. So you're
a lot
to
unpack. There's a lot to unpack there.
What's the worst or what's the best shittiest soda of all time? Is it Jolt?
Best, worst, shittiest soda. I mean, the best one that's terrible for you is Baja Blast. I could go to Taco Bell for Baja Blast every day for the rest of my life.
I don't even know what that is. It's got to be.
Buddy, you have not lived a life unless you've had nobody's had Baja Blast here before?
No, I tell you what, I got to get out of here in a minute before my kid melts, but that's homework for me. Since neither one of you watched the Beverly Hills Cop, as I asked if you could just take a second and watch that freaking thing. I'll do you a solid this time and try that Baja with Blast. Oh my, I can't even imagine how
delicious.
Bad that is.
You are broken. You need to partake. You just need to partake.
I know. All right, here we go. Last one for me. And you hate this for some reason. I don't know why, but Chicago's win total is 9 games this year. And I'm not even worried about what I saw or didn't see or what Caleb Williams did in the preseason or not. It has no impact on me whatsoever. It's just guys that step in, number 1 drafted, especially playing in a city like Chicago, with a coaching staff and head coach specific who is 2-10 straight up in division. You start to look at what these guys have done. Jared Goff, 4 games, Mayfield 7, right? Kyler Murray 5, Burrow 4, Trevor Lawrence 3, Bryce Young 2. It's tough. It's hard. And I'm not discounting what Chicago did around him, but for this team to win 9 games this year is going to be really tough. And it has been really tough, where you've seen guys drafted this spot not really live up to it. So it's hard for me to think that either Detroit or Green Bay are not going to at least compete. They may not finish number 2, but it's hard for me that they're not going to at least compete. So I went under 8.5 on the win total right there.
I hope so. I really, really do. As a Vikings fan, I need this division to not be as good as what it looks to be this season. We went from being probably the worst division in football to the best in 2 years. Same thing with the AL Central. We went from being complete dog shit. I mean, the White Sox still are, but now we got Cleveland, the Minnesota Twins, and Kansas City. I mean, just a complete 180 in terms of competitive level for all of these Minnesota sports divisions. We yet again could not run worse as an I want to think of Minnesota as an entity, and only broken bad things happen to us. That's how it works.
Well, let's hope that one of those good things is splitting with the Bears this year, which I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it. All right.
You better win both against the Vikings, let me tell you that.
Not according to my under 8.5 wins they won't. So,
okay.
I don't know why you have such a problem with this. This would buck a massive trend for rookie quarterbacks. And CJ Stroud, other guys that have stepped in, not taken in this specific spot. this is a Matt Eberflus. Like, what exactly is giving you confidence in Matt Eberflus? You're out of your mind, Lindy.
I'm sure Brad agrees with me because
both you are smarter than me. But
I'm still in the Caleb Williams had a terrible offensive line at USC, and Lincoln Riley's overrated. He went from playing in the Big 12 to playing some actual competitive Pac-12 teams. I think things changed a lot around Caleb Williams, and I mean, obviously, they didn't have the same type of. Jerry Rice's kid was okay, but like, I'm just not a huge fan of the skills position players he had around him his final year there. Maybe you could bash him for some of what we had in year 2
I'm
there.
not bashing him.
Year 1 USC, but year 2, he showed out to me.
This has nothing to do with Williams. Do you understand? Like, I'm not. I think he's going to be a talent. I think the kid's going to be good in the NFL. I'm just talking about
the most important position on the football field. That's it.
All right. Well, you're bucking the wrong trend here with me. All right, pal. At Eric, was that Mr. Anything that solid or positive that you'd like to end with, Brad, here in this conversation?
Good.
Is that it? Oh, I thought you hit the end screen and that was it.
I'm here, but I have no idea what Eytan's saying.
Yeah, we did lose Brad.
I don't know, my volume cut out for him, so I was just watching him.
Is Eric still here?
Go nuts. I had no idea what he was saying.
It was fun.
Brad's got a big smile on his face, so whatever he said with confidence, and I'm sure it was positive. So we can end with that. At Mr. Brad Thomas, at Eric Lindquist, at shanderbets. We'll see you Thursday, 3:00 Eastern.